All right. And just want to start us out by thanking our sponsors, BC Builders and Parikh Stevens Architecture. Also want to thank our presenters today, which are Gino Carreri, Hirsch Parikh, and Danny Vachon. I'll let each of them introduce themselves, but Danny is going to start us off, and just give me 2 seconds and I'll get your slides up. Danny, are you with me?
Yes. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you great.
Wunderbar.
Just I'll switch over the slide somewhere in the button. Sorry, folks, just a little fumbling about here. And I want to share my screen. All right, does anyone see that slideshow? Does it look good? All right, take it away, Danny, when you're ready.
Okay, great. Can everyone hear me, hopefully? All right, so welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining our tour of Elevate Pena Station, the first workforce housing project in Denver. My name is Danny Vachon. Oh, hey guys, make sure that you mute yourselves just because I can hear a bunch of people chatting. Okay, so my name is Danny and I work as a development manager for MGL Partners, which is the developer of this community. I'll be kicking off the tour today. I'll be followed by the project architect, Hirsch Parikh of Parikh Stevens Architecture, to give us the design perspective on the property, and Gino Carreri, Elevate's property manager from Cardinal Property Management, to give us the management and leasing perspective. Go ahead and advance the slide. All right, so I'm going to start by introducing you guys to MGL Partners. Next slide. All right, so MGL Partners is a multifamily rental developer and investor located in Denver, Colorado. The company was started 16 years ago by the principals Mike Gerber, Greg Glade, and Lisa Mullins, MGL. Since its inception, MGL has completed or has in its pipeline over $700 million worth of multifamily projects. Next slide. Our work spans 4 different business lines: affordable housing, workforce housing, what you're touring today, Class A luxury, and senior housing, which includes independent living, assisted living, and memory care. Together, affordable housing and workforce housing make up the lion's share of our portfolio at about 57%. MGL is actually the largest for-profit affordable housing developer in the state of Colorado. We not only develop our own projects, but we also consult with nonprofits and local governments who would like to develop affordable or workforce housing, but do not have the in-house expertise or the balance sheet to make it happen. So just as a snapshot, here are the groups that we're currently working with: Denver Metro Village in Denver, Golden West in Boulder, Douglas County Housing Authority, Senior Housing Options in Denver, and Neighbor to Neighbor up in Fort Collins. Next slide. Our experience spans several different types of construction. We've done garden with surface parking, wood frame over podium, mid-rise with subgrade parking, high-rise, and complete gut renovations of high-rise buildings. We have utilized all different types of debt financing, some of which I'll get into later in my presentation, and different types of equity, including joint venture, high net worth, federal and state low-income housing tax credits, and federal and state historic tax credits. Next slide. But now to get to the project you all came to learn more about, Elevate Pena Station. So back in 2015, MGL had a vision to develop a prototype rental community in a rapidly growing and highly visible TOD location, and to design a flexible, profitable, and replicable financing model to then be able to deploy at more locations that would benefit from workforce housing. The result was Elevate Pena Station. 218 units of affordable luxury housing located on the A Line commuter rail system with easy access to Pena Boulevard, I-70 and I-25. 25% of the units, or 55 units, are deed restricted at 80% of AMI, and the balance are market rate. Next slide. So MGL was able to source the deal as an off-market land purchase with the seller. We negotiated 6 acres in the Pena Station Next mixed-use development. You may recognize Panasonic as the anchor tenant. We initially negotiated the purchase and sale agreement to delay closing for 18 months to make sure we had all entitlements and that our construction financing was secured. Elevate is 2 blocks from Pena Station, which is 1 stop away from Denver International Airport, which has approximately 30,000 employees currently and more expected with the future airport expansions. The property is minutes from the Gaylord Rockies Resort and Convention Center, which has 1,500 employees, and just a 10-minute drive to the Fitzsimmons Medical and Innovation campuses, which hold approximately 25,000 employees. So in addition to being a TOD site, the project has excellent visibility from Pena Boulevard, which has over 64,000 cars per day. Elevate reached 95% occupancy in less than 8 months. It's definitely a record, averaging about 30 leases a day, and it raised rents twice during the lease up on the market rate portion of the property. That really reflects the demand for housing at this price point and at this location. So in short, the project has strong multifamily real estate fundamentals, and it targets a dramatically underserved market segment. Next slide. Next slide. So here are just a few pictures to give you an idea of what the property looks like as we talk more about how we finance the project. So I think we have to go back one, Philip, but that was our workout facility. This is our Well Beats. This is our Zen studio, which offers like flex workout space and a Well Beats system. And next slide is our pool, hot tub, and grilling area. Great. And then last, the next slide is an example of a unit. Okay, next slide, please. So now let's shift gears to talk about why we decided to forego building a typical low-income housing tax credit model and instead build workforce housing. All right, next slide. When MGL started looking at the Pena Station Next area, our original concept was to deliver a 4% tax credit community financed with tax-exempt bonds, or just traditional low-income housing financed with low-income housing tax credits and serving renters making less than 60% of area median income. So we ran the numbers. You can see our sources and uses. It's a little outdated. This is back a couple of years now, but as you can see, it assumes a 218 unit property, aggressive LIHTC pricing at $1, certainly not the current state of affairs. It assumes a state LIHTC award, and all units are restricted at 60% of AMI, so the maximum that you could possibly charge. So with all those kind of aggressive assumptions, you can see that we still had a gap of $2.2 million. So this project does not pencil. Next slide. All right. So there are several issues associated with traditional tax credit financing models that contribute to them often not penciling and constricting developers' ability to create flexible, profitable solutions to meet housing needs. First, Debt has to be committed upfront at a fixed rate for the full renovation or construction period, plus the 15-year minimum compliance period. This forward commitment has a premium priced into the overall rate, making it higher. Typically, debt structures have prepayment lockouts for 10 to 15 years. That's in order to protect lender yields, but it means that it's really difficult to prepay your mortgage. Due to rigid tax credit equity structures, it's also difficult to refinance or increase the leverage on a project during the compliance period, even if the project is doing really, really well. So that means your equity is essentially frozen for all those 15 years. Typically, tax credit investors don't want to take any kind of market risk if the project has more than 20% of the units at market rents. Even more often, you see 100% affordable properties without any market rate component. They're just 100% affordable. Developers are disincentivized to utilize traditional subordinate debt or mezzanine financing structures because there's no short-term refinance or sale event to pay them off. And lastly, traditional bond executions are really complicated, and they're honestly very expensive. They have high transaction fees and a lot of regulatory restrictions. Next slide. So after running the numbers and playing with our assumptions, we concluded that traditional affordable housing wouldn't be a solution at this location, and we would have to start thinking about a different model. At that time, Denver, like many cities, was experiencing rising rents that haven't been matched by wage increases. Middle-class renters who don't qualify for traditional low-income housing are the most rent burdened. So firefighters, teachers, healthcare workers, law enforcement, and other young professionals who make too much money to qualify for traditional affordable housing, but can't afford a market rate home, fall into this category. Since the Great Recession, Class A unit stock has grown by 5 million units nationwide, but the stock of Class B and C units remain relatively unchanged as developers are buying older properties to quote unquote add value in order to raise rents. This depletes the stock of naturally occurring workforce housing. So in Denver, which has been experiencing high job growth and economic development in the past 5 years, MGL identified workforce housing as the critical element that we need to support our community. Next slide. So like I said, we decided to forego the idea of traditional LIHTC and instead to address the opportunity at this location through a more conventional real estate approach. I'll walk you through our approach now. Next slide. So here are the key financing principles in our new workforce housing model. Optimization of yield on cost with market rate units subsidizing the 80% of AMI affordable rents. So you kind of need that balance of the market rate with the affordable to be able to kind of subsidize the lower cost units or the lower rented units. So this is a critical metric to be able to attract equity capital. You need flexible, shorter term leverage with a forward commitment for permanent debt financing. You need lower cost, shorter term subordinate debt to leverage the overall equity returns. And then getting a social impact equity investor on board as a limited partner capital provider is essential because they tend to be more flexible on their terms and they have a slightly lower return cost. And then lastly, you need significant equity co-investment from the developer or the sponsor to manage risk optics. So essentially putting skin in the game. Next slide. So now let's get into the specifics of Elevate Pena Station's financing model. So the developer and limited partner capitalized the project with land value and cash equity that totaled about 30% of the overall project cost. We utilized a conventional construction loan, about 56% of the overall cost. CHAFA provided $4 million of short-term subordinate bridge financing, 9% of the total cost. Impact Development Fund, which is the CDFI, provided an additional $2 million of subordinate bridge financing cost, about 5%. MGL worked with Prudential Affordable Mortgage to secure $33 million from Freddie Mac with a forward commitment, which ensured repayment of construction and subordinate loans. Forward debt commitments are, the forward debt commitment was customized to address refinance risk at stabilization. Typically, you can do this, you can kind of tailor them for different debt service coverage ratios, size, amortization options, and term. But most importantly, this model doesn't use any traditional low-income housing tax credit financing subsidies, which preserves them for more affordable projects with lower AMIs. Last slide. All right, so let's take a look at the sources and uses for our Elevate Pena Station. Notice this is the same amount of units as the LIHTC model, 218. However, this time 25% are at 80% of AMI and the balance are at market rate. The 80% of AMI units have a land use restriction agreement, just like you would for a LIHTC unit. They're called a LURA, and it's for 20 years. So those units will be affordable regardless of the sale of the property over the course of those 20 years. It has the same cost to build. Essentially, this is the same product as a LIHTC, structurally, electrically, terms of unit size, all of that. The main difference with this model is really the difference of the finishes. They're a little bit nicer than maybe you put in a LIHTC unit. You'll also see that there's $6 million of subordinate bridge financing, significant equity from the developer and limited partner. And the big takeaway, no gap. So overall, MGL was able to provide a flexible, profitable, and replicable financing model for workforce housing. And that's all from me. The last page has our contact information. I'm happy to give you guys more information about this project, and I'll be around for questions. So I'm going to turn it over to Hirsch Parikh of Parikh Stevens Architecture, and he's going to go through his slides showing you the design perspective.
Hirsch, are you ready to take the screen? You should just be able to click your share screen button. There you go.
Okay. All right. Okay. Can everybody see the first slide okay?
It looks good.
Okay.
Good, Hirsch.
All right. Well, thanks, Danny. Hello, everyone. My name is Hirsch Parikh. I'm with Parikh Stevens Architects. A lot of you are familiar with us, but just a brief introduction. We're a boutique firm, and we specialize in housing. This is what we do. And we've designed about 9,000 units in Colorado. About half of them are affordable housing, half of them are market rate. I'd just like to briefly talk about a couple of core principles that drive our practice. And those are that we balance the art and science of our profession, and also that we optimize the built environment. And I'd just like to briefly expand on those two concepts. So what does it mean when we say we balance the art and science? Well, it simply means that aside from focusing on the aesthetic and urban design concepts of our profession, we take very seriously and we're experts at the building code and the building science part of it. So in short, we feel very strongly that our buildings should be technically robust. They should be durable, they should be code compliant in equal measure as they are beautiful. What does it mean to optimize the built environment? Well, we serve several masters. We have many design goals. And sometimes, these goals are at odds with each other. Sometimes they're synergetic. You have to, orchestrate a process that optimizes all of these sort of sometimes competing imperatives. So just a few of them here. There's, I would say, a lot more than that, but beauty, obviously, the building needs to be beautiful and appealing. but it also needs to be efficient. Affordable housing, certainly, or any project for that matter, you need cost efficiency, but you also need functional efficiency. You need spaces to work well together without being wasteful, but you can't sacrifice livability and functionality either. Buildings need to be durable, and that means sure, physical durability, but also stylistic durability. So we always look for methods through which we can create, a sense of timelessness, even if the building, does need to appear to be of its time. Inclusivity, that means, making communities where you foster social interaction, where everybody feels welcome, different abilities, different ages, different, even different modes of transport. You can't design a community that favors the automobile so heavily that pedestrians feel threatened. Contextuality, buildings need to be contextual to their time and place, locally, starting from the neighborhood all the way up regionally. Sustainability, obviously, we have responsibility to, the environment, to the planet. Safety, which kind of goes hand in hand with social interaction. If there's lots of eyes on public places, and you think carefully about, defensible spaces and lighting, then you create a safe community. And health, you want to, you're designing, of course, you're designing for your client to make sure that they end up with a profitable project, but you're also designing for the neighborhood. You're also designing for the city, for the built environment, for the planet. And ultimately, at the end of the day, you're designing for the end user. Do you put in place spaces, practices, and nudges that would lead to a more healthy outcome for your residents? Before we dive into the project, just a quick acknowledgement that I'm here to represent Parikh Stevens Architects, of course, but also the greater design team. Takes a lot of firms to put a project like this together. A special shout out to Energetics, who I understand a couple of them are attending this webinar. And also special shout out to the GC, BC Builders, who, you can design the best building in the world, unless it's executed properly, constructed properly, of high quality, projects usually not successful. So the larger context here, obviously we're located in Pena Station next, the master plan community that's located between roughly 60th and 64th, just the east of Pena Boulevard. The red line here on this graphic, that's the A line. And 61st and Pena Station is the last transit stop on that line. So clearly a TOD project. Danny mentioned the Gaylord project that's right here. And you can see that there's the Green Valley Ranch and everything, but over time, this is gonna start really filling up. And Pena Station Next has a key role to play in that that next phase for this whole neighborhood. Here's some visioning documents from Pena Station Next, and you can see what the master plan is trying to achieve. Obviously, it's a TOD, so there's a lot of density. Envisioning more density. I think this is an instructive image here. North is that away. There's the line. There's the transit stop. And you can see they envision a lot more density near the stop, as is natural. And then as you move away from it, it starts to taper off in density. Our project is right here, and it's uncanny that we ended up doing something, very much like what was envisioned in the master plan. I don't know if this level of density will be achieved near the node, but certainly hope so. Zooming in a little bit. So here's Pena Station next, again, 60th, 64th, Tower, Pena. We're right about here. So zooming in even further, the red area, that's the project site, bound on the south by 61st Avenue, Telluride Way, Salida. 61st, just in a couple of blocks, runs into the transit stop. So we're actually within quarter mile of the transit stop. So our site is also specifically TOD. It's across the street from this aviation park. It's kind of a little central park of this whole development, but its north edge is also very close to this blue grama open space that's got a water body in it and a very nice sort of native open space. So our site plan, we tried several iterations. This is about where we ended up. There's not a lot of verbiage on here, but you can get the drift. It's here's Telluride, here's Salida, and here's 61st, and that north edge is a property line with another property. Our imperative it was to really hug the street with our buildings. Several things you accomplish with that. For one, on at least one or two of the streets, City of Denver would force you to do that. But I think it's just sound urban design practice to do it on all streets so that you closely engage the public realm, create frequent public entries, patios, balconies, and really animate the relationship between the dwelling units and the public realm, and create a safe environment for everybody and a safe pedestrian environment. Initially, we thought, well, maybe the leasing office ought to be here, because that southwest corner is probably the first thing you'll see if you arrived at this project from the transit stop. But then putting the clubhouse in the corner ends up putting it, kind of farther away from other places. Putting it in the center creates its own challenges. And essentially, we ended up with the clubhouse here, and with a close relationship between the clubhouse and the pool, which is important for many reasons. But then, having created this kind of a secondary node, we were aware that this was a very important corner, certainly architecturally. This was an important corner because that's the entry to our site. But within the site, it was important that once you surround the entire site with a building mass and you achieve a great purpose of masking all the parking from public view, then you create a second problem for yourself, which is you create a giant parking lot on the inside. How do you mitigate that? So a couple of strategies, other than obviously a lot of vertical landscaping to interrupt the parking, is to not make it feel like a large parking lot. So the way we did that is we introduced an east-west spine and a north-south spine that behave like main streets rather than like parking lots. And then that divides up the site into 4 quadrants with smaller areas of parking. Each one of these buildings has tuck under parking off the back. And so that strategy gets rolled into that very nicely. And then we can scatter some amenities like a dog park, and then of course a central amenities, the pool itself. One challenge with this is that the pool ends up being somewhat surrounded by parking. And the question then becomes, how do you mitigate that relationship? So these are 3-story walk-up buildings. The clubhouse itself is a 2-story element and has a small elevator in it to make the entirety of it accessible. But the residential buildings don't have an elevator, and they don't have multiple stairways and corridors, which makes, it goes back to that cost efficiency idea. There is structured parking, but not in a concrete structure, but it's tucked under the building, which makes for a cheaper version of structured parking. So here's a typical ground floor of a very small portion of the building, but this will help you understand how this whole assemblage is put together. So on the ground floor, you have 2 entries, which is important because this is the more public entry, and that's the more private entry access from the parking lots. There are these garages, which are great, again, for safety reasons. If we're working late at the airport, or you're working late at the Gaylord and you come in here at 2 o'clock in the morning, if you had rented a garage, that would be a really handy thing, because then you'd be able to enter your unit directly. There are 1-bedroom units typically located on the inside of the project, and 2-bedroom units located on the corner of the project. That's important because on a typical 2-bedroom unit, we have a corner entry. You walk down this hallway, but then it opens up into this very grand living, dining, kitchen, great room that has windows on 2 sides. For a roommate situation also, this creates a great separation or for that matter, for a family situation where the two bedrooms are very much sort of farther apart from each other and feel like suites. And then this becomes the place where people congregate. All dwelling units have balconies, which is important in our climate. And then upstairs, when you arrive here, the garages down below are now taken over by dwelling units. So these two dwelling units actually face the parking. Yet another reason to make sure the parking doesn't look like a sea of a Walmart parking lot or something. And then on the second and the third floor, there is no need for this corridor element to extend all the way out. On the ground floor, certainly, because we need two entries. But upstairs, we sort of hop over the corridor and grab that room, and that creates a 1-bedroom plus unit with an extra den, which is great for a live-work situation or just a little bit of extra space, be it a nursery or a game room or a den, whatever. Some looks at renderings. So this is the corner of the leasing office. So this would be the south face. We felt that as a 2-story space here, or a two-story building, it was important to then exploit some 2-story volumes. And so right as you enter, we created a very grand 2-story volume. It was important to make sure that the southern exposure and the relationship with the park across the street was taken advantage of. A very grand 2-story patio, a public patio. And then this building ultimately relates to the pool. This is the corner of 61st and Salida, so the first thing you'll see. And just want to point out something I was mentioning earlier about our ideas regarding how buildings can be made to look timeless. Here's a simple strategy we use. So you see this corner, and you can see how deep the recesses here are. So it almost appears like the brick walls are 2 feet deep. Obviously, we don't need to build 2-foot deep brick walls anymore. You used to do that when they were load-bearing 100 years ago. But that kind of depth sort of evokes an older building, a certain stature, and that takes into that kind of timeless realm, even if all the rest of the treatments are very contemporary. You see that there's a general, just neutral tone to the building, tans, grays on the brick and the stucco with splashes of color, some maybe brightly stained red vertical natural wood siding. A view of the pool, as you can see, a nice laser cut fence, dense shrubbery to try and mitigate the proximity of the parking with this, and create a very strong relationship with the clubhouse. For safety reasons, these relations are pretty tricky. They don't let you just open these spaces entirely to the pool. And having done a 2-story clubhouse space, we wanted to segregate some uses and make sure that the upstairs was also had a great relationship with the pool. But it wouldn't have been so great if there was no direct connection. So we also provided a direct connection from the 2nd floor of the clubhouse to the pool and the spa. A few interior renderings. This is where you'd walk in. This is the 2-story space. So we segregated the uses by sort of quietness, if you will. More noisy, more public spaces on the 1st floor, quieter. There's a quieter lounge on the 2nd floor. There's a party lounge on the 1st floor. There's the patio, that's a more quiet space. Even the fitness was divided. There's a more loud part of the fitness is on the ground floor, but the Zen studio is upstairs. One of the things we like to do is have a strong relationship with the pool. So when a resident walks in and while they're waiting here to be greeted, they could immediately see across the party room into the pool area. And an informal kind of a greeting desk here almost feels like just a communal table instead of a real like a concierge desk. And so you can see this kind of modern workbench here almost. This is the other direction, looking in the same space, a 2-story marble wall, horizontal fireplace, and a peek into the gym. So when people walk in, you want to, immediately start expressing to them the lifestyle they'll have here. So the healthy living aspect of it, a visual cue to the pool, a visual cue to the gym, but without making the people who use the gym feel like they're in a fishbowl. So we always try to provide some level of screening between the gym and the common area. And that's what this slat wall was for. I'm going to play this animation, and might be a little jerky, but I'll pause it frequently. Hopefully it plays well on everybody's screen. We're looking at the leasing office here. And just want to point out that this is probably the last rendering I'll show, then I'll show you the real photos. It's always interesting because these renderings were created while we're in the design process. But then the thing actually gets built, and it's, you get varying degrees of satisfaction based on how much you ended up keeping or what changed. So here's the leasing office. And we fly around, and there's the entry into the leasing office. This is the part of the clubhouse that relates to the pool. There's that second floor Zen fitness center that looks down at the pool. The party lounge looks at the pool. And a quick story about this goofy helical windmill. So Panasonic's our neighbor, and they're also partners in the larger development. And they said that they had access to very cost-effective, almost free windmills that they could give us. And our energy modeling team took a look at it, and the buyback wasn't great. It wouldn't have made sense otherwise, but if they were going to give us the windmills, we were going to use them, and if for no other reason than to use them as art elements and make a statement about sustainability. But they didn't quite come through with the free windmill. So although they're here in the rendering, they never quite went up. Here's a relationship to the sidewalk with the buildings, and again, lots of balconies, patios, frequent public entries to really animate that relationship between the public realm and the residential uses. And here's that spine again, that east-west spine, driving down which, with diagonal parking and parallel parking, dog park to the left, doesn't feel like you're in a parking lot. It feels like you're on a street. And a quick flyover over the pool. Someday the landscaping will actually get this dense, and we'll have the full effect of the landscape screening, a fire pit, grill, outdoor kitchen, and that stair directly connecting the clubhouse second floor, so that you can impulsively go down to the pool after possibly a workout upstairs. So here are some real photos. Aerial view from 61st, which is here, and Salida. There's Gaylord in the background, and you can faintly see the form of the airport on the horizon. Here's the leasing office corner, the double-story space here, gym, entry, a public deck up on the second floor with the southwestern solar exposure and views. Here's that corner again with the thick brick walls. Just want to point out that one of the things that's different about what ended up happening compared to the renderings is that you may recall those very brightly colored natural wood vertical siding elements between the windows here, along these entries. We felt eventually that it was a bit too much and that we needed to tone down and make the color palette a little bit more earthy. So we ended up using a more natural color of wood and more neutral toned accents. A look at the two-story space from the inside. This is the entry. You can kind of see the park through the southerly windows. There's that glassy conference room on the corner. The very modern workbench got replaced by a natural wood bench. A lot of plants, a lot of natural materials, stone, two-story stone, wood, colors that are evocative of nature, somewhat biophilic in the approach. And here's the view the other way into the gym. There's that slat wall that screens the gym, the two-story marble wall with the horizontal fireplace. A look at the quiet lounge upstairs. And here's the movement studio in this configuration being used as kind of a spin class, but a lot of other things could happen here, yoga, etc. And walks out to the deck, which then looks down into the pool. And here's a view from that deck, looking down at the pool. A view from inside the pool. So, you know, despite the fact that the vegetation is young, you can see that the screen wall does a great job screening the cars, and you don't feel like you're surrounded by a parking lot. And finally, a look at the inside of a dwelling unit. Just want to point out a few things that we always take care to do. For example, the kitchen. You know, one of the beauties of having a floor plan strategy like we did, putting the living, dining, kitchen, great room on the outside corner, is that you can do a window in the kitchen, which adds a lot to the kitchen with all that natural light. A couple other things that are interesting here is, you know, the very neutral toned palette, very natural, very warm. Try to stay away from this current trend of very cool tone, black, white, kind of stark look that's going around. Again, approaching that timelessness. And the fridge, 24-inch deep cabinets above the fridge instead of the standard 1 foot, and then end panels. So making a conventional fridge appear like it's a built-in fridge, and using cabinet paneling on the island, you know, or the peninsula, rather than drywall. That's about it. And I guess I'll throw to Gino now, who'll show us from his perspective how these spaces are actually being used by the tenants. You're muted, Gino.
There we go. I'm unmuted now. Thank you for that. Let's see. Let me share that screen. Yeah. There we go. All right. Hi, everybody. I'm Gino Carreri. I'm the property manager here at Elevate at Pena Station. Been here from the ground up. Love it. I work for the Cardinal Group. I started with the Cardinal Group in October of 2018 from Florida, came out to Denver to knock out a nice project. I'll move through these slides. First impression, this photo right here is the leasing office, the corner office I'm actually sitting in right here where I'm rolling over my mouse. It's the conference room. The conference room, all glass windows. The residents love it. Nope. They can rent it. They can use it. It's got all the necessary stuff. And then right above it, at this outdoor area, it's used by residents too. They can look over at the aviation park, just like Hirsch talked about, or they could take a look at the mountains this way, facing west. They get a view of the Pena Station. They get a nice sunset view if they're up there taking in the sights. Resident parking is. This is the entryway to the property, but future resident parking is right here. So they get a nice feel, welcome feel, and then they get to walk by a couple of amenities before they even get to the leasing office. So they get an idea of what they're getting themselves into, for lack of a better term. The second picture, this is the southeast corner of the property, and not to give away my location, but that beautiful 2-bedroom OC floor plan right there is my home. So not only do I run it, I also live here, which it builds that much more value. And as you can see, our curb appeal is gorgeous. We've got a mixture of rock, mulch, sod, or grass, tons of walking area, tons of green space. Yeah, and we'll move on to the next one. So this is my clubhouse. If we were taking a picture right now, I'd be sitting right here. And this lovely area, the residents take part in it, but we also have people wait here for their tour, or they sit here at our leasing table. This is where we have them fill out their application. My office is right here, and my assistant's office, Kristen, she's right here. So it's very warm and welcoming when you walk in. You immediately get Kristen and myself, and then it opens up to a nice open space that's very inviting as well. The second floor here, as you can see right here in the corner, are 2 huddle spaces. Now these 2 huddle spaces, one has an Apple, one has a PC, best of both worlds, and it gets a ton of usage. A lot of our residents work from home, and they can come down and they can use these computer spaces, and they don't have to reserve them. they love it. They can close it. There's soundproof tiles in there. They can get their work done and move on from there. The clubhouse itself up here has several big screens, tons of open space, Wi-Fi, you know, all the modern luxury at an affordable cost. Next, I'll move on. This is our model. Oh, let me go back here. There we go. This is our model floor plan. Now the model floor plan, Hirsch did speak to it earlier. It's a 2-bedroom E floor plan, roughly 1,147 square feet. Now, one thing I love about this floor plan, it's separated. So when I say separated, when you walk in the front door, there's a nice long hallway that leads to the kitchen, the great room, and the living room, all that fun stuff. But along the way, you've got the coat closet, the full-size washer and dryer stackable, so we save space. And on the left-hand side, you've got the guest bathroom and the guest bedroom before you actually get into the living space. So your guests are not on top of you when they walk into your unit. Now, with that being said, also, it works for our demographic because the family aspect that Hirsch spoke about and the roommate aspect. So they're still together, but they're separated. So with our demographic, DIA, Gaylord, hospitality, all that stuff, which I'll get into, you get several people that want to live in an apartment, but don't want to be on top of each other. So they're separated and they have their own space, their own closet, but then they all have that one meeting space in the middle, i.e. the living room. Now the bedroom here, there's tons of window, tons of natural light. These 2-bedroom floor plans are always going to be corner units. So minimal shared walls, more natural light, more windows. We'll move forward there. My 24-hour state-of-the-art gym. This gym is immaculate and amazing. First and foremost, there's big screens everywhere, full Wi-Fi. It is called lifted. We have names for all of our areas, specific names for the property to give it that special feel. All the cardio equipment faces the south wall, facing the exterior, so they get a view of the park across the street. They do get natural sunlight, so they're vitalized with that vitamin D. All the cardio equipment has its own cable and internet hookup, so you could play solitaire, or you could watch Netflix, or you could just stare out at the grass while you're getting your workout in. It does have free weights. It does have core exercises. In the background here, there is the TRX too, so weight and core resistance. And I've never had a single resident complain about waiting for equipment because this space is huge and has all the equipment you could ask for in a brand new property. Let's see here. Next, this is part 2 of my gym. Part 2 of my gym is the Zen Studio. Now up here, you'll see the garage doors along the north corridor here. These garage doors are amazing. They open, they actually use them. If it's snowing outside, you'll still have the heat on the inside, so you get that nice mixture of cold and heat while you're working out. Or if it's warm outside, you know, you can get that nice breeze coming through if you're doing a spin class. The well beat system is pretty cool. The well beat system, it's like a cloud-based digital instructor. It's updated monthly, and the residents literally could walk up to this screen and select the class they want to do, everything from breakdancing all the way up to P90X or Insanity, and it's all included in, you know, in their stay at Elevate Pena Station. This is my lookout lounge. Now my lookout lounge is a beautiful shared space for the residents. It's in addition to the clubhouse. Over to the left, the glass doors that leads to the sitting area, my office, the back of the house, and the elevator to go to the 2nd floor. But in this space, we have Wi-Fi, big screens. We do have the shuffleboard, and there is a 24-hour coffee, hot cocoa, and tea bar, which our demographic loves because their schedules are all over the place. Whether they're working, you know, on the airplanes, mechanic-wise, they're working overnight, and they come home, they grab their coffee, or on their way to get coffee, they can grab something to drink on the way to the train to head into downtown. You name it, this area gets used for it. I personally had my baby shower in this lookout lounge, and we've had everything from a quinceañera to baby shower to birthday parties. And one cool aspect about this room is if you look at the top of this slide, that rail, for lack of a better term, there's a garage door which leads out to a fenced area with a ping pong table. Then you can access the pool and the hot tub itself. Now the pool, I included this slide because we've come a long way in a short amount of time, and I love it. On the left, this was the before picture, what the cement pond hole in the ground looked like. And on the right is the finished product. Now the pool itself is awesome. We do have a 10-person hot tub. The grills and micro fridge are right there. The umbrella in the right picture is right above the fire pit, and the residents have access to use this. They can check out the key. And if you look at the clubhouse to the right, that first floor, that's the entrance to the lookout lounge that I was just talking about. And the second floor, that's a nice sun deck where residents can sit out of, or they can go through those garage doors or the entry right there into the Zen studio to get their workout or yoga or whatever they want to do. All right. In addition to a PA spa, we do also have a bike, ski, and snowboarding room. Now this room is designed specifically for the outdoor residents. They go in there, they can watch TV while they work on their skis, while they work on their snowboard, while they tweak their bikes and do whatever they need to do. It's a little resident cave, for lack of a better term. And it gets, all the tools are in there, and it gets a ton of usage, and the residents love it because you don't see too many rooms, you know, where they can go in and tweak their hobbies or their outdoor lifestyle. All right. Next, some of our finishes and designs. On the left-hand side, this is a kitchen of a 2-bedroom OC floor plan or an E floor plan. It's roughly similar, but one thing I do love, in every single unit, you're going to get the herringbone tile backsplash, which gives that affordable luxury. It's unique, and I've not seen a single competitor that has it, so I love it. Every single unit's going to have under cabinet lighting, and it's adjustable too. So if they wanted to make a specific design, they could, but you know, it's there. Quartz countertops everywhere in the apartment, and the nice stainless steel package with the side-by-side fridge, filtered water, filtered ice, all state-of-the-art, all brand new as well. The cabinets, one thing I love about our cabinets is if it has a handle, it opens. No fake drawers, so you don't have to worry about ripping the handle off your drawers when you go to pull on it. And on the right side here, we are one of the few apartment communities I've ever managed that has storage above the toilet, and I love that. And I tell everybody, the framed mirrors just give that touch of class that sets you apart from your competitors too. A framed mirror is where it's at. Dual vanities in specific units, but all apartments will have the modern finishes on the shower head, the faucets, so that modern sharp edge, but keeping it affordable, and tile all the way up to the ceiling, which is an added bonus as well. Tons of storage, you name it. There's so much storage in my apartments, you can't knock it. Now this is a site map to piggyback on Hirsch's map. This is an actual breakdown of how many buildings I have. I have 5 different addresses. I have 5 different buildings. 218 total apartments. If you go directly west, you're going to run into the Panasonic building in the Hyatt Place, and then the light rail, which is literally a 4-minute walk. And if you go right, you're going to get up here to Tower Road and Tower and 61st. So this is a breakdown of the buildings and, you know, what direction and their actual addresses and labeling as well. And all the amenities right here are tied to building 2. So they're effectively in building 2. The dog park is over here in between building 5 and building 4. And all my mailboxes are right here next to building 4 itself. Let's see here. All right, with that being said, of the 218 total apartments, 114 of them are 1-bedrooms, and they range from 636 square feet to 821 square feet. I do have 95 2-bedrooms. They range from 1,000 square feet to 1,157 square feet. And I have 9 3-bedrooms. Those 3-bedrooms are 1222 across the board. With that being said, Danny spoke about it earlier, the 55 affordable housing units. Now, forgive me, the 80% AMI pricing right there has recently changed, and it's now at $1,500, $1,800, and $2,080 respectively for the size bedrooms, 1, 2, and 3. To the right, the unit mix is right here. Now, the unit mix, obviously, somebody on this call would see a 1-bedroom club, they wouldn't have no idea what I'm talking about. But the 1-bedroom club plus the 1-bedroom plus, those units are always the 1-bedroom with additional space. The E that you see here, EK1, EK2, that simply means extended. So it's the K1 and the K2 floor plan with extended living rooms and extended bedrooms. The TA, the 1-bedroom type A, are my ADA floor plans, which are, you can see in the 2-bedroom type A as well. The type A's will always be first floor units, and, you know, several different options, several different setups, and our residents and our prospects love the variety of choice they have. Now, with that being said, we started pre-leasing in January of 2019. Haven't looked back. In my almost 10-year career in this industry, this lease up has been crazy in the best way possible. At the time of our conference call right now, excuse me, our happy hour, we're currently occupied at 92.2 and pre-leased at 96.79. Several delays in the beginning, but that didn't matter to us. We amassed 114 5-star reviews, which we're currently sitting at. And in the past year, we finished tied for 7th out of 116,000 communities for our Aura score. So it's safe to say our residents love us and we love our residents, and we go that extra mile to ensure that their stay here is extended, because, you know, if we're doing 12 to 18 month, or if we're doing 18-month leases, we're doing what we're supposed to. But, you know, I don't want to say apartment living is transitional living, but it is. And you do get those lifers, but we want to make sure everybody staying, no matter how long or short it is on point. The light rail and DIA have been the lifeblood of our property, and it's increased the demand and need for our property, because a 4-minute walk to the light rail, as opposed to getting in an Uber and spending that money to get to the airport or get to the Gaylord or get to Amazon, it pales in comparison to walking to the train and getting on a train and not have to worry about anything. During the course of the lease up, we've averaged over 25 leases and 20 move-ins a month, and that's being modest. We recently began renewals. March, we had over 60% renewal rate. April, we're trending over 50, and there's been actually a couple people that have reversed their notice to vacate or changed their month to month to renew at a, you know, and stay another year with us. My demographics, moving right along. My demographics are as follows. The biggest source is DIA, and I've got everybody living here from security guards all the way up to the architectural engineers that are redoing the airport. So it's a nice range of, you know, incomes, and it's a nice range of intellect and backgrounds and all that fun stuff. So next would be the hospitality workers. Since our area is, we're surrounded by a ton of hotels, the Gaylord's a big influence there. We're right next door to the Hyatt Place, and we have partnerships with all these employers in the immediate area. And when I did this slide, I was taking a look at our demographics, and I'm going to say now it's kind of a tie for 3rd place between Amazon, because Amazon has hired a ton of workers due to the recent situation, and city and state jobs, including nurses. I have several police officers and several prison guards that live here as well, because our proximity to 70 and Havana over there, where the corrections facility is. Just another couple points. Our clubhouse is humongous. The talking point, we have a 22-foot marble fireplace, and it's a good jumping off point with our tours to get everybody, you know, opening up and feeling more comfortable. Our residents love the Huddle Spaces. They use that. The space itself is very walkable, very laid out. I got to give Hirsch props because it's laid out beautifully. One thing I do love about our community that's separate from our competitors is we're not a traditional garden walk-up. Our breezeways are enclosed. They have a pin pad and a key fob activated entry. So if you're in your breezeway, it's because you got in. No random people can get in unless the residents give them their code. But it gives that sense of security, and on top of that, it protects people from the elements. So if it's snowing outside and you get in your breezeway, you're nice and warm. Every unit has closet space, and it gives that feel of affordable luxury, and that's one of the compliments we always get. Some of the stuff we're hoping to see and painted to. as told by my staff and my residents. We're gonna get a little bigger pool, which is no big deal. Some more parking, which in Denver, everybody knows that there could always be more parking in Denver. The leasing offices, we're gonna frost those bad boys over. So I'm not a fishbowl. We spoke about putting a shower at the pool. Those huddle spaces, everybody loves those huddle spaces, and we're looking to add a couple more huddle spaces so numerous people, instead of 2 at a time, can get it. Billiards table and USB outlets, a couple little nickel and dime stuff there. And that's me in a nutshell. And forgive me if I'm running around like a chicken with my head cut off here. Philip?
No, they're great. Thank you so much for that. And I know you were rushing because we were running a little bit late, but that's all right. I think you did a great job, and thank you to all three of you. We do have a couple of questions. Before I jump over to that, let me just you can see my face. I want to point out just a couple of things. We are running a little bit late for the happy hour, so those who are staying for the happy hour, we're going to get started with that soon. We also are lucky enough to have a lot of folks on this call, this meeting, this virtual site tour, whatever we're calling it, from the various companies, from the architect, from the developers, so that when we get into the happy hour, you will be able to ask a lot of folks these questions in person. Sometimes that's a lot easier, and those conversations can be a lot smoother well, not in person, but in a actual questioning. I do want to just share a couple of questions that came out here. Greg actually answered a question around the number of that these are going to be affordable for 20 years. So I will let that stand as it is. But we also had a question from Beth, who asked, which are the units that are 80% AMI units? So are they, this could probably be answered by any of you, but Gino, it might be easiest for you. Are they segregated in any way? Are there a particular place that are the 80% AMIs, or where are they in the floor plans?
No, they're a nice mixture of 1s, 2s, and 3s. I mean, we took, I can pull up my specific units, but to answer that question, we took just a random sampling of each floor plan and took a percentage of them. So of the 55, like for example, of the 3 bedrooms, 2 of them are AMI. And the 1 bedrooms, I would say it's a nice equal mix of 1s to 2s. So it's random across the board about which floor plan are the AMI, and there was no rhyme or reason. We just we just wanted a nice eclectic mix of every floor plan that was shown to be represented at AMI as well.
And I'll just add that all the finishes are exactly the same between the affordable units and the market rate units. So if you walked into any unit, they look exactly the same. You would have no idea that there was a rental subsidy on it.
And I will add what I see here from Greg in the chat, that they're not even specific units. It looks like you just set aside a number of affordable units. So if one ceases to be affordable, you wouldn't necessarily that same one again, right? It's just a floating number of affordable units. Is that accurate?
One more time, Philip, I'm sorry.
It looks like Greg Glade answered the question in the chat window as well, and reading his answer, it also said that the affordable units are not set units. So you're not like, they can float. A unit could be a market rate with one owner, and then the next renter would be an affordable, or vice versa. They're just a certain number of units that are affordable. Is that right?
Correct.
Cool. Again, we're going to be switching over to happy hour here, and we'll be able to have some smaller group discussions with these folks in a bit. But is there any other questions that folks have burning right now? Cool. I will also point out a little plug for Elevate, is they are one of our nominees for a Eagle Award this year for excellence in affordable housing. We have had to postpone that event, but the awards will still be happening in some form. We're just not sure when or how, but please keep an eye out for that. and check out our website for the list of other folks who are nominated. So I've got 3:11 by my time. And so those of you who are going to stay for the happy hour, if you want to just take 5 minutes breath and grab yourself a cocktail if you'd like, or grab yourself a coffee, or use the facilities. We'll come back in about 5 minutes, and I'm going to go ahead and I'll assign just all to smaller groups where we will be a little bit more able to chat, and we'll rotate those around. So I'll give us about 5 minutes. Let's try to be back just a little bit after 3:15.